Well, first of all, Dr. Burton, thank you so much for your time today. It is nice to be with you. And just for your reference, I'm the health reporter here at the ABC station in Dallas. So I've been covering the pandemic at length for, well, almost 2 years now.
2
Um,
years.
and just a nod to all the scientists who have worked so hard on not only mRNA technology, but the vaccines and I think also the education piece, which has become so relevant to the public. I
Yes.
have my own questions for you, and then I also have a list of questions from our audience members. I think the first one, the most common one that people have is with regard to trials for children. Where are we now?
Yes. So the Moderna vaccine is actually authorized in 12 to 18-year-olds in the European Union, in the UK and Japan and many other countries around the world. We're still working with the FDA here for that age group. We've submitted our data from the 5 to 11-year-olds. We had remarkable data there as well, great protection. We've submitted that in the European Union and other countries. We're still working here with the FDA. Now, our study in 2-year-old to 5-year-olds, where we use the 25 microgram dose. Most adults get 100 micrograms as their priming dose. Here we give 25 micrograms. That study is set to complete fairly soon, and probably in the next few weeks. We'll get the data as soon as we possibly can, and we'll share it. We'll share it quickly with regulators, with the FDA. And hopefully, if it's positive, they'll approve it for those kids. I agree that they are disproportionately impacted, certainly by Omicron. We've seen that, and they have no means of protection. So a vaccine for those little guys really is well needed.
I think another common question right now is with regard to boosters. A lot of our audience members who had questions said, look, I've gotten my booster. One person even wrote me this morning and said, I've gotten a 4th dose. So as far as you know right now, which I understand can and likely will change, but as far as what we know now, are we looking at a once a year, an annual type of a vaccine, or what can people expect? Should they keep getting boosted every 6 months?
Yes, so we presented some data in the New England Journal of Medicine on Wednesday evening that showed that 6 months after people had the Moderna booster, there was still protection. So I think that's good news against both the original strain and against Omicron, but it had waned, and it had waned particularly against Omicron. So I think, as you know, we have started our vaccine trials against the Omicron-specific booster. Our prediction is that we will probably be at a state where people get a yearly vaccine, once a year. And our aim is to be able to combine that with flu, so that you would go in the autumn, get tuned up for winter, get a single flu COVID shot, and do that on a yearly basis. I think as we get through this Omicron wave and things calm down, that's probably the most likely scenario.
So why the necessity for an Omicron-specific booster if we might see other variants pop up?
Yeah. So, the Moderna vaccine, mRNA 1273, is a really effective vaccine. It's very safe and highly effective, and it's great against Delta. Gives really excellent protection against Delta, against other variants. Gives pretty good protection against Omicron, but we know the mutations in Omicron give it this escape. So we need something, we believe, that will cover Omicron as well, in part for this year. Omicron likely has to be around for this year. There is now this new so-called stealth variant of it. So we need some Omicron cover. So our best foot forward is to be able to develop a vaccine that can cover the ancestral strain and Delta plus Omicron. If another variant comes along, I think the power of our mRNA platform is that we can adapt quickly. Think about Omicron. We only heard about it on Thanksgiving Day. We're 2 months out from that. We've already started testing a vaccine. I think we can probably even over time shorten that timeline even more. So if another one comes this year, we can be prepared for it. We can make the mRNA, put it in the vaccine and adapt. But the most pragmatic, sensible thing to do now is to make sure that we have a vaccine that can protect against all these strains, keep people safe here in America and around the world throughout the rest of this year and as we go into the next winter.
So I myself was boosted with Moderna. I had my initial doses of Pfizer vaccine. I know that there are still people here in Texas, certainly, who are asking about data around mixing and matching. And so I'm wondering, I've heard other news outlets and reporters call you all competitors, which I understand, but in a sense, I feel like there's a little bit of needing to work together as well. What do you think about the data around mixing and matching?
Yeah, so the mixing and matching of vaccines, I think, is endorsed now by FDA. It's endorsed by CDC. There have been some great studies. One is the NIH study that also just came out, I think, this week in New England Journal. It's another study from the United Kingdom called Cove Boost, for example, that mixes and matches, and it really is highly effective. It's a great way to boost immunity. So I think medically, scientifically, it's very effective. And look, I would say in all sincerity, we're all in this together as manufacturers here in this country and around the world. We have to partner. We have to partner with governments. We have to partner with academicians, with healthcare systems, and we're doing that. I think that has been one of the silver linings, if there is one, of this pandemic, that we've worked together. It's brought people together to try and solve this, and we have to keep doing that. We're committed to doing that.
I have an interesting question here about whether or not Moderna is working on mucosal or intranasal vaccines to help with mucosal immunity.
Yeah, so mucosal immunity is interesting, right? That's like the first portal of entry that these viruses get into us through airway epithelium and cells in our nose and lungs. There is data that there is protection. Antibodies are produced and are resident in the airways. So I think there is some. If we can also begin one day to actually deliver these vaccines intranasally or in an inhaled form, that would be a remarkable thing. I would just note that we announced data earlier this year in a collaboration with Vertex, actually using messenger RNA in the inhaled setting, and there was effectiveness there. So, I think it has great potential.
And your thoughts on a universal COVID vaccine, and then also distribution of that. I think that, from a layperson's end, we might feel sometimes like the distribution is a little chaotic. So what can you tell us from your perspective about the process, but also the developmental process as well?
Yeah, look, for us at Moderna, as I say, mRNA 1273, highly effective against Delta, highly effective against all of the other previous variants. I think our strategy for now is to continue to monitor the science, make sure that we can provide vaccines against emerging variants. And I think over time, they will just come together and we will get deeper and deeper and broader immunity. So that's really our approach for breadth of cover. I think as a nation, as a world, we've learned so much about distribution of the vaccines and how we get them out to people, and that will continue. Websites like makeityourvaccine.com are great as well. Education is power. The more people know about that, where to get vaccines, easy, simple websites to go to that let you know where to go and who's got what vaccine, when will it be available. We've learned so much more about how to do that. So I think over time it's evolving and it's getting better. It's certainly been a learning for all of us.
We have a question about your mRNA HIV vaccine trial that was news a little bit earlier this morning. Can you tell us more about that?
So we announced dosing there, it's early days, I think. Again, these latent viruses, I would note that we have also generated data in the CMV realm. We just recently started our phase 3 study in CMV as well, another latent virus. EBV, Epstein-Barr virus as well. And there was a fascinating paper out just the other week that suggested that EBV might be a fundamental contributor to multiple sclerosis. So outside of COVID and respiratory vaccines, we're committed and we have huge effort in what we call latent vaccines as well. We think they underpin just huge burdens of chronic disease here in the US and worldwide. So it's a huge focus for us.
I think, many people are just coming to know about and learn about mRNA technology. I know that Moderna is sort of a leader in this realm, not only for COVID, as you mentioned, but we still have some questions from people who ask, what are the long-term side effects of these vaccines now that it's been a little while? People who are still hesitant to get maybe even their first dose of vaccine here in Texas. I'm wondering if you have any new information or words to offer those people.
Yes. So look, Texas is 58% fully vaccinated, and a third of those people have been boosted. So that's good. There's obviously some still opportunity, but those are numbers to be proud of. In the year and a half or so that we've been using these vaccines now, at least for the Moderna vaccine, over 400 million doses of that vaccine have been administered worldwide. 400 million. I mean, it's a remarkable number. I would say, honestly, we know just about everything there is to know about the safety profile of the platform and certainly of our vaccine, and it's incredibly safe. We work with regulators and physicians and nurses all the time to update them as we find any safety signals, but there really aren't any. It's incredibly safe. We know about rash and some pain injection sites, some achiness. That's well described. So 400 million doses have been given. It's remarkable. And the effectiveness that we continue to see in study after study from all around the world, independently done of Moderna. We don't participate in them at all. They're completely independent. It's just exceptional. It's a highly, highly effective vaccine with great safety. So I would say bringing all of that together, people should be confident to use the platform to take this vaccine. And I would say as well with Omicron and the other variants still surging, there's really never been a better time to get vaccinated or boosted.
And I know you've been asked this question before, but I'll ask it again for, those people who are a bit hesitant still. They say, well, there are all these breakthrough cases. So why should I get vaccinated or even boosted? Is it necessary? I could get COVID, whether it's Delta, Omicron, and perhaps I will swiftly recover with relative ease, and I don't need to be vaccinated. So again, what do you say to those people?
So that's a great question. Thanks for asking it, because I think it is an area of confusion. So think about this Omicron wave. We had days where there were maybe 1.5 million people in this country alone, being reported as having COVID. I mean, that's just an absolutely remarkable number. We had maybe 3,700 deaths a day. Right now, here in this country, we have unprecedentedly high levels of people in the hospital with COVID and in the intensive care unit. Now, the vast majority of those people are unvaccinated. Vaccination reduces your risk of dying, being hospitalized with COVID, but something like 90-fold. I think it's a huge number. Vaccination and boosting almost completely obliterates your chance of dying or being hospitalized for COVID. Now, there will be breakthrough infections, but when they occur, they're going to be more mild, they're far less likely to lead to hospitalization and far less likely to cause death. So I think the prudent, sensible thing for anyone to do now, given the bulk of data and given now the understood risk that COVID brings with it, is to get vaccinated and get boosted. It's the safest thing to do.
Is Moderna working on any other treatment option or therapeutics at the moment for COVID, aside from vaccines?
So our major approach is really using mRNA as therapeutics in areas like cancer, and in cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, and rare disease. In the infectious disease space, with vaccines, combination vaccines, variant-specific vaccines, all in the respiratory field. And then the other ones we talked about for latent viruses, CMV and EBV.
You sort of mentioned this at the beginning, sort of a multivariant approach to a COVID vaccine, similar to a flu shot. I'm wondering if there are, would that look like flu, Delta, Omicron, all of it together?
Yes, yes, absolutely, it could do that. Our platform has that capability, it can do that. So I believe that, that may indeed be the next part. So
I'm also wondering what your strategy is, or in terms of future focus, how is Moderna approaching 2023, 2024 with regard to COVID, and then also other areas that you mentioned just now?
Yeah, so a combination respiratory vaccines for certain with flu, and then the latent viruses as well. Thank you so much. I think we have to move on now.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.